Alright, in this video I'd like to go over the Fueled Racing power steering line kits for Nissan applications. First thing I want to say is that we do not make a one-size-fits-all kit in any way, shape, or form. None of our products are one-size-fits-all. So you need to provide us with the specific power steering pump that you're going to be using and the accessory brackets that you're going to be using. We need to know whether your power steering pump is a rear exit, a side exit, a top exit, a bottom exit, etc. We aren't going to send you one specific setup and expect it to work when you have, say, different accessory brackets that put the pump in a different location, right? Even if it only moves the pump an inch or two in one direction or the other, we want to make sure that your line isn't too long and you're having to figure out what to do with the excess. If it's a bottom port versus a side exit, you're going to need a 45 instead of a 90, things like that. And so, we tailor each power steering line kit to the specific parts you're using. So definitely give us a call and let us know what you're using. Shoot us email, whatever you'd like to do there, and let us know what you have. If you don't know what you have, that's fine. Just shoot a picture of it and we'll know just from looking at the picture. Some people get confused about bottom exit, side exit, things like that. And, unfortunately, things, especially like the GTO power steering pumps where, they came in both rear exit, side exit, and top exit, among all the same years. So it gets a little confusing. And so if you're just not sure, just shoot a picture of it, send it to us, and we'll figure it out from there. The next thing I want to go over is all of our Nissan power steering line kits use a fitting that we machine in-house that is an O-ring seat, just like your factory fittings. Your factory fittings are O-ring seat fittings. Okay, this hex here does not bottom out on the rack. Nissan racks are not designed or intended to be used with a crush washer. The ports aren't machined for crush washers. Therefore, you can't use a crush washer on a Nissan rack. It needs to be an O-ring seat fitting. So an O-ring seat fitting does not require some crazy amount of torque. Maximum is going to be 18 foot-pounds. You never want to exceed 18 foot-pounds on an O-ring seat fitting. So that's just something I really want to stress. I've had people say, man, I can't bottom out the fitting. It doesn't go all the way in. And I shouldn't have to say, but it's an O-ring seat fitting. Does not have a crush washer, and Nissan racks are not designed to use crush washers. All right, another thing about our fittings is we machine them with a 6AN mill on the other side. And the reason that we do that is simple. It really allows us to use all the common off-the-shelf power steering lines and fittings. And the reason that we do that is definitely not cost, as of this Fergola hose here costs over $100 just for the hose. The fittings aren't cheap, but if you're at a racetrack and you damage a hose, break a fitting, strip it out while you're doing repairs or something, you can go to a parts store and get a 6AN 45 or 90 or have a hose made to a specific length with fittings and orientation and things like that and get you back on track. So you're not waiting for a one-off hose that makes you, miss a race event or something along those lines. Another reason we use 6AN hoses and fittings is because it moves much more volume in a small amount of time, right? So, your hard lines, they're going to be a restrictive point in the system. We don't like to do that. We like to use a much bigger line than is necessary so that the restriction point in the system is the steering rack, right? And, anybody who knows about Nissan steering racks knows there's lots of ways to address that as well. I'm not going to get into that in this video. It's nothing to do with it. But we just want to make sure our power steering lines are not the restriction point that the rack is. Moving on, I want to cover why we use Fergola. Fergola makes really high-end fittings here in the United States. All of their lines and fittings are designed to work to 3,000 PSI. So, whereas, your old school guys who've been in the industry a while are like, wait, why are you using aluminum fittings on a high-pressure power steering system? Well, because they're designed and engineered to be used for power steering systems. So you don't have to use steel fittings. You can use the aluminum fittings so long as they're designed for it, right? Not all companies use the right, aluminum, and they don't actually design them for that. But yeah, Fergola designs and engineers their power steering fittings, the aluminum ones, to go to 3,000 PSI. And of course, in these systems, we're not even a third of that. All of these systems are going to be under 1,000 psi. All of our lines come with thermal management products. So every type of hose and line in a vehicle, whether it's a fuel line, a power steering line, whatever, you want to make sure you have a thermal management product for it. Anything that's exposed to heat needs a thermal management product, and so we include that with our kits. So once you are ready to install the lines, you can put the thermal management product on the hose. It's a very simple product to use. You can push it together, it will expand, pull it apart, it contracts back down to size. Once you have all of the lines and fittings ran the way you want them and you've tightened down all of your fittings, you can simply push the TechFlex right back over all of your fittings. And you can work it if you want all the way down to the rack. On the S chassis, I do work this all the way back down flush with the rack. This is for a Z application, and on the Zs, I actually just kind of push it to here because of the angle they come out of the rack. This portion of the fitting's not exposed to any heat. On the S chassis, they are, so I'd work it all the way down flush with the actual steering rack. You can do it either way, just based on your application and what you have there. That pretty much goes over the basics of our power steering lines for Nissan applications, why we use some of the products we do, and how they work. If I've missed something or you have any questions, just give us a call, 480-897-0712, or shoot us an email at fueledracingusa@gmail.com.